Grand Rising, everybody. Nearly afternoon over here, actually. So, hope everybody's doing well. And we're very excited for today. We are going to be pulling from the gene keys at random, which is kind of fun. That's how we say use it as an oracle. And I do this sometimes because it is super helpful when you're just stuck and you just need some like good advice. I do this with other books as well, but the Gene Keys is really kind of cool. And it seems pretty spot on, which is kind of nice. It's like the message seems perfect at the right time for you. So we will be doing that today. But before we get to that, just want to let you know, please follow us. If you go to womenofconsciousness.com, you will find us our Facebook, our Instagram, and you can follow us there. Also, we are putting on a virtual retreat, which is we're very excited about, and it's on tantric goddess energy, so that's kind of nice. And we'll be going into a little bit more of the history philosophy, but also, yes, the sexual part of it, which is so important. I think healthy sexual energy is critical. There's a lot of wounded sexual energy out there that needs to be healed. So, healing that energy within you. So, if you're overly charged sexually or underly charged sexually, it's going to help you either way. Um, so, but it's deeper than that as well. So, we'll be going into archetypal stuff as well and how it's connected to different archetypes. So very fun, very excited for that. And then also we have our goddess circle coming up, and that is a free event that you can join with us. And we're going to be starting kind of the tantric practice through that as well, which is kind of fun. So please follow us. Let us know if you want that information. You can email us at womenofconsciousness at gmail.com, and we can send you the link if you need it. It is for women. It is a women's circle. So just so you know, and we're very excited about that. So let's get started. So I think the theme that's been showing up for me, and I don't know if it's going to allude to this when we open up the book, it may or may not, is the warrior energy. So the other day I was like, oh, so am I a warrior? And then of course it keeps coming up. And when I flip through the gene keys, that's what came up. But today, we're just going to kind of think maybe what does the general, maybe the collective need to hear today, to support you in maybe moving forward or guiding you or giving you some insight as to kind of where you fit into the whole and what the whole is having to say about our, where we're headed as well. Okay, so it'll be a kind of a collective reading. And I am done. And let's see, we get to um, the 40th, which is funny because I just read the 39th. So now it's taking me the will to surrender. So as you know, the book, the way it's done is in three parts. It talks about the shadow, the gift, and then the city, which is the ultimate gift. Let's see. So we have exhaustion. That sounds about right for the collective.
Yeah, definitely. Exhausted.
I know. I just have to laugh because you open this and you just laugh. It's like everybody is so exhausted. We're over it. Like I just think of 9 to 5 when I see that. I'm all exhausted. And then the gift is resolve. Um, we all need that. And then the city is divine will. Which, oh my God, do you see what I mean? You open up the keys and you're just like, this is perfect. I think it's a perfect message for the collective, actually. Uh,
Mm,
physiology is the stomach. Amino acids, glycine, sorry, glycine, the codon rings. So there's different rings that are attached to them. So if you get the book, I just get the book. That's what I recommend. Just get the book. It's a really good book, written really well. I enjoy it. So the ring of alchemy. Ooh, I kind of like that word, right, Pam? We love
love
that
that
word.
word.
And then its programming partner is the 37th key. So now I got to go back and read the 37th, which is funny because then I had read the 37th, 38th, 39th, and the 40th, and not in that order. But okay. So the shadow is exhaustion, energetics of force and will. So the 40 gene key shadow concerns the correct or incorrect use of power in the human will. God, tell me it's not perfect for the collective at this point. The secret of this key is found in the difference between words, energy, and force. Energy is the context refers to natural vitality that flows into your actions in the world, Whenever your actions are in alignment with the universe, the requisite energy is supplied for deep within your being. However, when your actions do not flow from your true source, but are forced, the energy will be depleted. Um, so I think just in even in that opening paragraph, I think as we look at the collective, I think the will has somebody's will, their will, whoever they are. So the they that we talk about has been forcing their will upon the masses for a very long time. And I think we look at society as a collective as a whole, we talk about it all the time, is chaining us, like slaves. And I actually saw this meme today where it was like we're puppets, and I don't know who posted it. I don't think it was you, Pam. Somebody posted it on one of my feeds, and it just showed the hand with the strings. Oh, I think it was my cousin. Um, where it's like they just want us to be puppets. And if they keep us in scarcity, it says, then we'll never have enough energy to transcend it. We're always going to be in that scarcity. And that's kind of what I see. It's like they've broken our will. Um, the they, whoever the they are.
No,
uh, so,
absolutely. I always think of the chessboard too, like I'm not a pawn in
uh-huh,
someone else's game.
correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yep. That's correct. So the malfunctioning of the shadow is deeply connected to conversation of food and liquid into energy through the medium of the stomach. Oh God, no wonder. It's anyway. Okay, in the old old traditions of I'm like, don't get me started. Oriental medicine, the overall health of the human body is seen in terms of the vitality of chi, right? That's why we have qigong, tai chi. The energy fields. Of course, I believe kung fu is the grand ultimate way where you're constantly moving the chi in the body. So, according to this tradition, there are two forms of chi: prenatal chi, which is inherited vitality that you're born with, and it governs your eventual age, and then the postnatal chi, which you extract from food and nature.
Hmm.
So, the Oriental approach to health is based on conserving your prenatal chi whenever possible, which kind of makes sense. You know what I mean? It's the fountain of youth. And I think if you look at, even in culturally, if you look in China, they get up and they do Tai Chi every morning. It's really kind of beautiful. These older people, they get up, and the younger generation's losing that. But in China, that's what they do. You'll see people in the park just doing Tai Chi and moving their body, and it's usually older people. Well, the Chi or Tai Chi is not just for elderly people. The children too, so it's for everybody, right? And it's kind of cool because you see them sort of in this childlike innocence too. And they're kind of like preserving that prenatal chi, basically. It's like the fountain of youth, to be honest with you. This is why, even in Kung Fu, the philosophy, right? And Master Abraham, who is the person that I learned from, and I really respect him, he's a really great guy. He says, he has a saying, he said, the ninja train to kill, the samurai train for honor, and he said, and the Shaolin, which are the Kung Fu, trained to live forever. And so they are looking for the vitality of life and
Mm.
how to stay young and vibrant. And that's what it does, because it's harnessing that chi, or prenatal chi.
Yeah.
Um, so let's see. Conserving your prenatal chi whenever possible, at the same time boosting your postnatal, which would be through food, right? The shadow of exhaustion comes about due to ineffective energy conservation of food and liquid in postnatal chi, resulting in the body of having drawn upon precious reserves of prenatal chi, coupled with the programming partner of the shadow of weakness. Um, so we basically wear down our bones, right? Like all 32 shadow pairings, the process is a vicious cycle. So,
Mm.
um, so these two lower energy frequency patterns, they gradually wear you down to the bone, is what it says. So at the higher levels, this key actually responsible for transforming civilization society through fruitfulness, alliances, solid boundaries, um, beneficial exchanges between individuals, communities, and even entire nations. It's a gift of resolve, which means that people with this gene key in their hologenetic profile are born with a great willpower, a greatly misunderstood human faculty. Um, and usually see willpower as something that all human beings can access as long as they have the inner strength, which is hard for some people. I mean, I feel like I don't know. Just I'll just ask you. Just like it's really disheartening to see the wheel of people just cracking and breaking at the seams. Like that's what I see.
Mm.
And I don't know how you feel about just seeing that with humanity. Just
I For me personally, yeah. I mean, there's definitely moments, right? Driving through, I think, like a bigger city, and you just kind of look out the window and you see people coming and going, or, this country has a lot of homelessness, for sure, too.
mm,
Um, so, like, that becomes something. It's like, what are we doing to help anybody, right? We've kind of given up. There's no solution, so we just give up and just accept this part of our culture and our society. um I know people that I feel like they just get stuck, and they get stuck in
mhm,
a comfort zone,
mhm,
and so
mhm,
there's nothing, I guess, that I see, like, where they're trying to elevate themselves, right, and tap into willpower to get themselves out of the situation. It's easier just to stay stuck in the drama and the chaos and the discontentment of your life and your reality, and just accept, like, this is what was given to me. I can't change it or do anything. But then on the positive side, I've seen, a lot of beautiful people who do show up for themselves,
mhm,
who
mhm.
are facing, like, the shadow work, right? They're facing their own trauma wounds and,
Absolutely.
conditioning and insecurities and all those things.
Mhm,
And that's
mhm,
where I think, see, like, okay, like, this is a commitment to self. And that's where willpower shines. So to look at those people and see how dedicated they are to themselves, and then through that coming together, and we have this community, right, where we can be vulnerable and feel safe and honest and authentic, and just show up and support each other. There's no judgment, there's no blaming. That's been a beautiful, beautiful experience that I never had anywhere else, and it's
mhm,
not in any other circle. So I guess for me, I'm looking and I can see where, like, willpower is showing up, and people are trying to take responsibility and accountability, change what they can change, accept what they need to accept, and understand, like, they have a path and a purpose too. Compared to others where I think there's no willpower to be better, to do better, to create better. It's just, I'm here, this is what I got. Oh well, I'll just do coping mechanisms and distractions to try and find some comfort in it. Um,
yeah.
yeah. So,
And
and
I
I think
think it's
that's where
the collect
exhaustion comes in, just exhausted by our own
well, I
lives.
think in at the collective level, right? If
Mm,
you're looking at because, yeah, there are people doing the work, but that's such a small amount.
hmm.
Like, in our in
Exactly.
our tiny circle, when you look at the majority and from the collective or the macro, what we see is that the they. And I say they because who are the they? I don't know who the they are, right? Because we could say, well, it's a government or it's the this or it's the that. I don't know. It's the they, the forefathers that created this nightmare that's turned into. I don't know if that's what they envisioned was a nightmare. I'm sure they envisioned some kind of miraculous utopia. I don't know. Anyway, it's become a nightmare. And I think what's happened with people in the collective or at the macro level is that there is this drive, like it's like driving slaves,
Yeah.
and collectively people are beaten down. I mean, when you think about, I think, you and I have this very unique circumstance, um, that most individuals are doing this 9 to 5 thing.
Mm,
And at the 9 to 5 level, they pretty much Monday through Friday have is very, very, very little time for their own self.
hmm.
So, and then the work that is being done, the work that is being provided doesn't serve something of a higher purpose, right?
Mhm.
It's just this like,
Pay the
what
bills.
the hell am I yeah, what the hell kind of work am I doing? I mean, most people are just going like, this is not I'm not even serving and then the institutions that quote unquote you feel like you're going to serve, you're not because there's all these rules and doctors aren't really doctors. I mean, it just goes on and on and on and on. It becomes a complex problem, right?
Mhm.
Where the entire system has sucked the will out of individuals. It's like they're sucking their soul.
Mhm.
Um, it's sucking its soul, whatever the it is and the they are, which I can't really point to the they or the it, but
I have a few ideas.
I do too. I do too. But
Banking system.
yeah, I know, right? But a banking system isn't a person, right? So it's like but
But there
who
are
created
people,
there
yeah.
are bankers. No, I don't know. So who's the they? Who is this they? I mean, I don't know. It's the rich, the wealthy. I don't freaking know. Okay, so whatever it is, the they and it is the system maybe that was designed around the people who are the they. This is funny. I don't know the way I'm talking. I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing? Anyway, so that in the collective has really just broken the will of
Mhm.
the human.
Yeah.
And then the food
Oh
on top of
gosh.
that, as they're talking about yeah, it's just, especially in America, man,
Yeah. The
I can't
poisoning and the chemicals, like, oh my god, it's just meant to feed the system, like you were saying, to put us into healthcare where we need doctors and we need all of these things. Man, yeah.
It just breaks your will and you're
Ugh,
over it. I have
yeah.
people in my life who are like, I'm just over it. I'm over it. I'm over feeling crappy. You know what I mean? It's
Yep.
like it has broken our will. They have done the best job. They have done the best job at breaking the will of the American people. And I'm going to
Mhm.
just put in the Western world, the American people, because this is the reality we live in.
Right.
Where and then it's very hard for people to move to that next level because it's this vicious cycle that has been created by the macro.
Mhm.
Um, and so it does take a lot of willpower, right? And obviously this gene key exists in you and I because we have the willpower to try to transcend it at whatever cost it takes. You
Right.
know what I mean? To
I'm always
find
saying they can't kill me in this lifetime.
uh-uh, uh-uh.
You can't burn me now.
Yep. You can't. And it's the truth. And
Yeah.
so it's really hard. But I do, like you said, I do believe that it is beautiful that, there are people that are showing up. It's very such a small amount. And that's
Yeah.
where I was saying it just breaks my heart to see so many people unhappy and struggling and their will has been broken
Right.
and not even understanding how to find their way out of it or even which way to go.
Right. I think that's where people just put on a mask and right,
Mhm,
they pretend. They hide behind a
mhm,
smile. Oh,
mhm,
everything's perfect. My life is
mhm,
wonderful. Look at my
mhm,
like social media stuff. I have an
mhm,
amazing family. But in the
mhm,
meantime, your family's like draining and killing you or
mhm,
whatever, you're just
mhm.
or you've got issues and you're just pretending
Yeah.
like you don't
Mm,
and like yeah.
mhm,
That's why I know like I'm not perfect. I've definitely have taken accountability and responsibility for my life, but also understanding like where we're all coming from. And I think that goes back to last week when you were talking about the warrior,
uh-huh,
because it was that victim abuser kind of like
mhm,
you
mhm,
can't. It's like you fall in one role or the other. You can't escape
mhm,
it. You can only
mhm,
transcend the myth and the storyline. Um, but in your early years, you become victimized, whether it's by other
mhm,
people or by the system, or you become abusive and, retaliation towards it. Um, but I think that's part of the willpower is just
mhm,
owning at an individual level, like who we truly are, and then showing up authentically, rather than trying to hide behind these roles and responsibilities and what, we think people want, or, people pleasing and all of that stuff. It takes willpower to even just kind of break out of those psychological programs, right? That are wired within us as a species. We need to just even wake up to that and recognize it for what it is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it says willpower used in the wrong direction becomes force. And even though it may succeed in its endeavor, the results to your body become catastrophic and irreversible.
Mm,
When someone begins to force their life away from the natural direction, problems related to the stomach and to digestion crop up because the energy from food is not being properly converted. I felt this the other day. There is there is usually a buildup in the stomach acid over time. It can lead to all kinds of far more serious problems, ranging from ulcers, full blown cancer. The incorrect use of the will also puts enormous strain on the kidneys, adrenals, and body struggles to supply the energy to push against the universal flow. The result in long running premature aging, disease, and exhaustion. For most human beings, this is the normal way. Even so, and we have so many issues with chronic pain, diabetes. I mean, the list goes on, and it's
yeah.
rising. The human body is incredibly tough organism and can sustain enormous amounts of punishment. And it does. And I've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a nutritionist as well. And, I think part of this is to me, in like clinical terms, would be regulating the nervous system and understanding how to bring yourself into homeostasis, which again because like I had a lot, so I can just tell from my own like warrior journey, whatever, personally, the raging war inside of me with the adrenals and all this is the blockage between solar plexus to heart, because I don't wear my heart on my sleeve. I
Mm,
don't. People think I do, and and now I'm saying a truth that I've probably never told my listeners before, and really nobody really knows these sides of me um because I am a warrior. So I'm always armored up,
mm,
and I give people um I'll give people my full honor, my full trust, my full loyalty if I feel like they need it, deserve it. But underneath all of that armor is my heart that I protect. Right,
mm-hmm,
because that's what you do. You protect your heart. That's what a spiritual warrior does. That's why we become warriors, because we're trying to protect our heart, because there's this fear of opening it up where I don't wear my heart on my sleeve.
mm,
It seems as though I do. And people can see that love and that care and that kindness, but I'm protecting my heart.
mm,
And I don't distrust easily. So the connection between the solar plexus to the heart was feeling like nausea,
mm-hmm.
because a lot of stuff was surfacing, distrust for people, you know what I mean? All these weird things that were circulating in my body. Asking myself, is this intuition or is this me just making shit up in my head and causing
I was there
myself.
with you last week. Oh my God. Is that me, or is it something I just got to work through?
You see what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Am I making shit
Yeah.
up in my head
Right.
or is this
Exactly.
my intuition?
Right.
Which
And it
one
was
is
all
it?
based around the heart opening and
Uh-huh.
wanting to feel safe and protected. I
Uh-huh.
totally get it.
Yep.
Yeah. But I'm
Yep.
the opposite. I always wear my heart on my sleeve.
Yep.
And
Yep.
allowed and being an empath and sensitive, like
Mhm.
I got hurt a lot. I think I had expectations that other people were the same way, in a sense.
Mhm. Mhm.
It was
Mhm.
just
Mhm.
naive, young innocent
Mhm.
crap of not understanding.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Oh man.
And I was the opposite. I trust nobody. Like, we're
Yeah.
just like total I will not wear my heart on my sleeve. It's gonna to get through my armor is gonna take a it would only take another warrior to to get to my heart. There's
Yeah.
just no other way it could be, right? Because of the armor that, I take up. But yeah, I think that I made things up in my head. And I asked myself, is this intuition? Or is this paranoia. Like,
Yeah.
which one is it? So, you know, and what it did is it threw off my digestion,
Mhm.
and made me nauseous. I know when I was eating, I knew I shouldn't have even been eating because when I was eating, my stomach wasn't in a good place, so I know I wasn't digesting properly the food
Yeah.
that I was eating, but I had all this anxiety to open up my heart, and then I was like, "Okay, I have to open up my heart." Like, if you want to really tap into your divine will, like this, key is telling you, you've got to. There is no other way but to allow the energy to move through those chakra channels. You have to open up
Mhm.
that energy to get to the divine will, because you can think you're doing divine will through your mind. Oh yeah, my heart and my mind are connected, but the lower chakras are blocked off. There's the distance, right, between the root to the heart is pretty far. And I
Mm.
think, and here's another thing that I do, and I've stated this before for men, that it's further for men to get to the heart because their root hangs a lot further down than the woman's. Ours is sort of internal and theirs is external. So I'll say it that way. So it's family appropriate still. And so, men have to draw that energy from down there all the way up, right? So it takes a little bit more for that energy to come to the heart, where women are very internal, and it's a shorter distance to get to the heart.
Mm.
So, but still that energy needs to come up, and the space between the solar plexus and the heart, if your heart can't open, you're gonna keep all that anxiety in your gut, in your solar plex, the
Yep.
will, that's where your willpower sits, right? And
Right.
it's like, so then you have a choice, which is like what I was kind of going through like last week. It's like, okay, I can totally just make up this stuff and become the Queen of Swords and cut shit off, or I can work through my own shit and open
Right.
up my heart.
Right.
And I was like, well, I choose to open up my heart because that's what I'm working towards, right? It's
Right.
the liberated warrior, if you will.
Yeah.
I'm working towards liberation right now.
You're right, and I feel like it's also the rise of the divine feminine, right? Like,
Yeah,
has to have
it
an
is.
open heart for sure, so if you're opening up your
And I
feminine
carry that
energy.
warrior energy. It's like,
Yeah.
you're not gonna go burn things down, Natalie, okay? I just call myself Baby Yoda. Just like, I look so cute, but I burn down everything. It's like, no, Natalie, that's not okay. So so the will of it. So the shadow, right? The willpower giving compromise. So it says either attempting to force the willpower, having or take advantage of the weak willpower and giving into compromise.
Mhm.
So it's either your, well, let me read that again. There are two ways in which a 40 shadow can overwhelm you. Either through attempting to force your own willpower without having adequate support from others, or from allowing others to take advantage of you, uh, taking advantage of your weak willpower and giving in to compromise.
That was me. That was me. Don't want confrontation, so I'll just give in. Oh.
Yep. This later scenario is common among the business community where people work in jobs with little or no resolve, and for fees that are far too low. So this is what I was talking about in the collective, and I knew he was going to talk about it eventually because that's the
Mhm.
collective issue, right? The problem is when you compromise and work in a job that doesn't allow your spirit room to breathe. Your lower frequency actually reinforces your lower self-esteem, so you accept whatever you are paid. And this
Mm.
is the issue for how they are keeping us. And now another thing that they've added on, the they that we're talking about, is higher taxes, higher food prices, higher gas, higher everything. So
Right.
you're really, really, really living in scarcity. Um, and I think that the collective is feeling the scarcity more than they ever have.
Mhm.
I don't think that this is a bad thing necessarily, um, because the way that it was before kept everybody in comfortable. And the longer that we stay in that comfort, the further away we get from our own divine will.
Right. Exactly.
so something has got to give to push the will of people to
Right.
transcend. And
Right.
part of it is like, okay, now you're in scarcity.
Mhm.
Now what?
Right.
And so this is when we have innovation and the creators and people who are innovative and done the spiritual work start to pop up out of the woodwork and maybe unify, come together, share resources, and figure it out together.
Mhm.
Um, so these new kind of paradigms emerge, or new thought processes and innovations, and all these cool things start to pop up from
Right.
this like pressure that's coming. So, and maybe he'll talk about it later because I can
Mm.
already foresee kind of how this
Right.
might go. Yeah. Um,
Frustration. Whenever I think that frustration, like you can't, right? Frustration and exhaustion, you can't do it
mhm,
anymore.
mhm,
Like,
mhm, mhm, mhm,
and I
mhm,
think that's where
mhm.
the death, right? The death cycles come in because you need to die. Like the ego needs to experience the death
Mhm.
to be able to be reborn. And so I
Yep,
think that's where a lot of us feel like a death phase and don't know how to
for
work
sure.
through it. There, we are not adequately psychologically
Yep.
prepared, to handle those kind of emotions. I think people just turn away from that when people are like, I'm at the end of my rope and on a brink, the brink of collapse
Mhm.
and all that.
That's
Um,
right.
but that's kind of the energy that's needed. You have to hit that rock bottom, that death, to be reborn.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Sounds
Mhm.
like you and I were going through kind of the same stuff this last week. Okay.
What? It hasn't shifted? Oh, come on.
Of course, we're connected in that way.
Yeah.
And we're both over here all okay. Um, see. So the problem isn't when you compromise and your work in your job doesn't allow your spirit room to breathe, or your lower frequency actually reinforce it. Okay, so whenever you're paid. Okay. Another way in which the shadow work is through individual force of will. These are the people on the other end of the dynamic, the slave drivers, who take advantage of the people with weak willpower. Um, Such people isolate themselves from others, becoming lost in their own ambitions and their addictions to work. That used to be me at one time, but I wouldn't force my will. Maybe I kind of did a little bit. Steady energy drain on the core, vitality, lower frequencies, and closes their hearts to others. So I'd probably lean towards that a little bit more. Despite this, such people often maintain their direction through sheer force of will. And I force my own will through everything, but at the cost of their own very humanity, which is true. As you see, the most important secret in this gene key is the art of relaxation, which I'm learning. For those under the influence of the shadow, relaxation is virtually impossible. Oh, Lord. In point of fact, true relaxation is one of the most absent qualities in civilization today. So, holy shit, right? As the American dream forces you to work harder, this gene key saying, yeah, you probably should be relaxing, not working harder, which is so uncomfortable, especially for like these slave drivers. I mean, I was my own slave driver. I'll just put it that way. I wasn't trying to drive other people, I was driving my own self. Um, but I did take that on, right? And wear that. So I think that we do that, right? And relaxation such a scary thing. I I would dare to say that if you went into a room of executives, right? Like C-suite, right? We're talking CEOs, CFOs, all this stuff, right? Like these even our freaking political people, right? And we went into a room, got them in a room and said, "Okay," turned off the lights and said, "Okay, I just want you to sit in a chair, plant your feet on the floor, or even just sit down, and I need you to close your eyes and I need you to just relax. And just I want you to do this for 5 minutes." I mean, if you went to each one of them and touched their shoulders, I bet you anything they'd feel like a rock. You know what I mean? All the tension, all the relaxation is just not there. They have no idea of what that means. And if you even look at people who take, presidency or whatever, get to that seat, the vitality, which is kind of funny that we are talking about vitality, their prenatal vitality, right? Or the prenatal chi that they're talking about. Look at how much is taken from them when they take on those roles. They just end up looking like old, beaten people at the end. Do you know what
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean? It's like you can see it actually happening.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because 'Cause they're just taking on all of this, like, pressure and energy. You see them slowly get old
Yeah,
in
they
the
do, like, the
matter of
before and afters of the presidents, like, of their four-year terms, and you just see how much they've aged in 4 years,
and it
wrinkles and gray, and their face is drained.
it looks they look terrible. It
Yeah.
looks terrible. It doesn't look
Yeah.
fun at all. So, the relaxation is what we need, and so for those listening, like, give
Mm.
yourself permission to relax.
Stop doing and just be. I was thinking about that yesterday when I went on a walk because we had a really busy, community weekend,
Yeah,
and that was amazing. Um, and then yesterday, like, I was just tired and I just slept. I slept until 11. I was back in nap mode by 1:30. I went for, like, 2 walks. I did very minimal, like, chores. I was just being. And I was thinking that, like, it's so hard for people, like, to just kind of embrace boredom, to just slow down and not do stuff, right? Because I feel like I'm in a really good flow of it now. Like, I've got this good integrational surrender where I don't have to beat myself up internally about slowing down and not doing something because we tend to say like we're lazy, right? Lazy
that's
Americans.
right. Yep,
So, but
yep,
you have to for your health, you have to for your creativity. Um,
yep.
Absolutely.
Well, that's where they say that genius lies in the stillness.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? In the relaxation and the ability to just slow down,
Right.
which is not and it's funny how they would say lazy Americans, all we do is work. I mean, that's all
Right.
Americans do. You
Right.
have to. You don't have a choice or you're unless you're gonna dumpster dive, which you could do. But there is a whole thing around that, and we'll go into that some other time. But you can do that, I promise. It's the truth. Um, so so we talked about that, the force, right? And so the shadow is partly responsible for another lower frequency human state, that of loneliness or isolation. When you work something at something you love, using your energy harmoniously, you automatically activate support from others and therefore do not feel lonely. However, when you push against the flow or give in to someone else's flow, loneliness always rears its head. When you allow your energy to be misused by others, which is the repressive nature of this gene key, your natural support network is withdrawn, giving you the feeling of being cut off from life, when in fact it is your own action or lack of action that has caused this state. Yet another manifestation of the shadow frequency is a type of loneliness that comes when individuals isolate themselves from others through their refusal of support or by constantly biting the hand that feeds them. Mm. This is typical behavior pattern of the reactive nature of the shadow. The latter brand of loneliness is less obvious because such willful people often appear to have great strength and independence, whereas in reality, at a more unconscious level, they are just weak and lonely as the repressive side. The shadow is adept at denial, and its prime denial comes from denial concerns feelings. People in this shadow active often deny the fact that they have feelings. Um, and it is the denial that is ultimately leads to their downfall. This is funny because that's a very masculine thing right there. Deny that we have feelings,
Yeah, absolutely.
which is just too funny. I mean, unless you're a robot. And there are there are robots out there. If you don't have feelings, I would question if you are in fact a robot.
I mean, sociopaths as well.
Well,
Like,
okay,
I don't
yes,
feel
I
like
was gonna say that. I was gonna say psychopaths and sociopaths, but however, however, sociopaths and psychopaths do have the ability to have feelings at certain points.
right,
So they still have that in them inherently. It may not last for long,
right.
but they still can touch that
Yeah,
at some point, right? So so my thing would be like, if you really don't have feelings at all, I would ask yourself if you are a robot. You may be. I mean, it's possible there are robots out there. You may be a robot. I don't know.
Right, they do all those, like, picture tests. Find the lights, find the bike. Are you a robot?
And
You
if you're a
failed.
robot, I'm sorry that you're not an organic human being. I don't know what to say,
Yeah.
but you don't have feelings. So, yes, we all have feelings. I think we can all admit that now that we're adults, okay? Whenever human beings emotionally isolate themselves from others, they put themselves in great danger. And this is so true. The subtle quantum field known as the astral plane simply makes it impossible to separate yourself from other human beings. This kind of denial turns into negative frequencies in on themselves, driving them deep into your body, where they will gradually become more and more acidic, eating away at you. So the shadow is one of the most deep-seated causes of cancerous disease on our planet. It takes root whenever someone is unable or unwilling to face and feel the depth of their emotional pain. It
Mm,
is through this gene key that you have to deal with the fact that you are alone. You alone are responsible for your health on all levels, which is so true.
mhm,
Although others can offer you support and at times hold your hand, it is you alone who must face your life and um, all that it brings to you.
mhm.
Which is here's here's another deal, like, I'm just getting these flashes of just all these people that I love and how much if you wait longer to deal with this stuff, it becomes a flood that is nearly impossible to handle, that can really break you and
Yeah,
physically emotionally, mentally, which can give you a nervous breakdown. I mean, it's no wonder that we have these concepts like quarter life crisis, midlife crisis. Well, why? Why are we in crisis at those ages? We don't have rites of passage. We don't have any kind of like, how do we go through these different stages? Ego deaths, like you talked about earlier, because at
right,
each level we're killing our ego and reborn into this new phase of life. We have none of that. And so our society itself doesn't provide the outlet to help us transcend and grow and
right.
develop, and so you get to your 40s where you're like a wiser, right? And then all of a sudden this shit hits you like a ton of bricks. And then you have people with heart attacks, people who are having disease, people, I mean, it's just this vicious cycle that has been created. And so streaming along and working with yourself slowly at a steady pace, I highly recommend for anybody listening, if you don't have a life coach, a therapist, somebody who's not connected to you in a friend way or a family way, completely outside of your your support network too, to get support. I highly recommend that for slow, steady support to move you along, because if you don't, it's going to come like a flood.
Mhm.
I mean, it's like the floodgates, right? It's like if a dam broke
Yeah,
and all that water, because that's what emotion is, all that water you'll drown in it, and I've seen people drown, and it
right.
becomes too much for them to
And
handle.
yeah,
Go ahead.
and the goal of the universe of consciousness is to expand, to open,
Mhm,
to
mhm,
continue to grow
mhm,
and evolve. And like
mhm,
we said earlier, the masculine has had dominance, and we
mhm,
know the feminine is rising. And it's not about the feminine taking over and being in control or being the leader, but more like this integrational process where they are authentically in their roles.
mhm,
And
mhm,
that is embodied through us. So
mhm.
to cut off emotions and feelings is to cut off the divine feminine.
Yeah.
And like
So
you said, for a lot of people, it leads to moments of volcano, right? That self
oh, for sure.
eruption that
Yeah,
causes
I mean,
massive chaos.
it could, because you could
Yeah.
burn up the emotion. Like, I
Yeah.
see it in 2 ways, right? You can burn the emotion up and it comes out as a raging volcano,
Yeah.
or you've the waters come so high that you get flooded by the water of emotion. So it can be like these 2 things, right? And you want
Mhm.
to just kind of find this like balance
Yeah.
of like kind of both, you know what I mean? It's funny because I'm
Right.
rewatching this the whole analogy and just came to my brain like the vision. Um the Lords of Power, because it's like a series, right? The
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings, but it's the Lord of Power, the Lords of Power, whatever it is, but it's a series. But I was rewatching it because I think the new episode's coming out. And there's Mordor is what is created from fire.
Mhm.
But for Mordor to have erupted, which is kind of funny, is they open up the floodgates and water gets down into where the heat is, and it causes this bubbling to
Mm.
happen, and then boom, the volcano erupts, and then there's just fire everywhere. It burns everything down. And so that visual is actually pretty good for what it is. And if you saw the emotions as this built up pressure, but you saw that the volcano's the willpower, right? You want a steady stream of that volcano to come out. You want it to be more like lava than this eruption, because
Right.
that destroys everything. And your willpower can destroy everything if it
Right.
is not focused in a way that's healthy. So again, the willpower being such a hard, and that I'm telling you, the solar plexus is no joke
Yeah.
energy to work with. It's just not there. It's just no joke.
Mm.
And it's funny
Gotcha.
that willpower is coming out, and it's like it's like, oh my god, because once you get there, your heart rate. So I can tell you, sort of what's happened to me. This might help you. The solar plexus were very cut off. I'm trying to open up my heart, and then naturally, I allowed myself to cry.
Mm.
Steady stream,
Yeah.
steady. Because once my heart opened, guess what was there? Tears.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It wasn't fire and rage. But
Right.
if I keep it at the solar plexus level, it becomes this fire where it's like, "Ah," you know what I mean?
Yep.
Okay, so um
You want me to read the next two?
yeah, you can. Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
Um, the repressive nature is the acquiescent. These people who lack firm boundaries in life. So once again, I'm not even surprised that I resonate with the repressive. People of this nature easily acquiescence to manipulation by others, lacking the will to stand up for themselves. This permissive habit is rooted in denial of one's own needs, typically arising from patterns and coping strategies that developed in childhood. These people will give of themselves tirelessly and usually to people or organizations that never really care about them. Oh, my ex husband. Oh, this 40th shadow drains people who do not value themselves and their energy enough. When such people come out of their denial and make a stand for themselves and themselves alone, their life can dramatically improve. And I am a standing testament, absolutely, to that paragraph through and through. The reactive nature, contemptuous. The reactive side of this shadow is about the denial of rage. Like the fear of the repressive nature, this rage has its root in a difficult childhood. This
Mhm.
kind of denial distorts the rage into contempt for others. These people can be extremely arrogant. They prey on the
Sounds just like me.
weaknesses. They prey on the weaknesses of others for their own benefit. Such a sustained, disdainful attitude means that these people cannot afford to allow anyone to get too close to them. This
Mhm.
reactive denial feeds on disrespect for others, and thus people with this reactive nature gradually erode their energy by cutting away all their support. Because their strong will is fueled by unconscious rage, they do not often appear to be exhausted. But inside, their constant need to isolate themselves from their community takes its toll in the end. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like totally me. The only thing I would say um is preying on people. I
Right.
think I don't that's one thing I never it's cool because some of this is I agree with, right, for myself, 'cause I
Mm.
like most of it I do. I am arrogant. I say that loudly and clearly to everybody. I will not deny that my arrogance does show up. Um, but I don't prey on the weaknesses of others. I think that's where my other archetype shows up, the
Yeah.
sage, the part of me who wants to protect others. Um, but I don't allow people close to me.
Yeah.
And that's what I was just talking about earlier. Like, I don't wear my heart on my sleeve. I give people, I'm loving, I'm kind, but I won't allow people into my heart. And part of it, I think, is that it kind of goes into the acquiescence, but there's boundaries with me is that I don't believe I'm worthy of love,
Oh,
which
yeah.
is something that I've never even have said before because I know that I'm worthy of my own love, but
Right.
I realize that I don't believe that people can love me,
Mm. And that goes
which
back
is
to the solar plexus in a lot of ways too.
oh,
That
for
self-worth.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is
Yep.
crazy because people
Yep.
love me and I'm like, "They're
I
lying."
love you.
So, don't tell me you love me, you liar. Like, what the hell? Like, that is just
I love
that
you.
is that is some messed up crap. I'm telling you, it's totally messed up, and, like, my my high
Yeah.
school sweetheart who passed away, right? He loved me till all ends of the earth, and I looked at his picture the other day, and I apologized. I was like, "Damn," like, I didn't believe him.
Yeah.
I just and then I think back and I'm like, "Holy crap, my heart was so closed off," that I did isolate, and everybody here's the deal. He loved me so much that people were like, especially women would be like, "God, I just wish I could have that," but and it's probably because I pushed it away that it was always in my life.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Because I didn't want it and I would push it away.
Right. What
Where
you
you
resist
have women
persists.
exactly, well, you know how it is because
Yeah.
women who want it so badly don't get it, and
Yeah,
the
oh, I
me
know. All I
and then
wanted was someone to actually show up and love me the way I deserved and was worth. And instead I
and
got
then
liars, manipulators, abusers because I didn't have freaking boundaries going back to childhood because I felt safe and protected by my father. Like and I was never taught boundaries. And my mom, my goodness.
oh,
Like
Lord.
that's a whole nother no, it's crazy. It's crazy. Like when
It
you
is.
start connecting all of the dots of
Uh-huh.
like
Yep.
how we're truly wired to
That's correct.
experience life. And that's the thing, it's the shadow, right? So it's not like we're meant to stay there. It's just how we're programmed.
Mhm.
And then we
Mhm.
can transcend it and so I can look back and that willpower was so tied into the boundaries and again the stomach, the solar plexus. But
Uh-huh.
now like there's no way, like I will cut you, like you were saying, that Queen of Swords, like I will cut you out of my life so fast. I ain't falling for your manipulative crap. Like I see true colors and I'm not, like I have so much self-love and self-worth. I will not allow myself to be taken advantage of and abused in those
Yep.
situations because I thought it was like, because you tell me you love me, but your love is abusive. That's not
Yep.
freaking love. That's your own
Yep.
crazy crap. You think you love someone, but if you really love someone unconditionally, you would not be that kind of person. You would do the freaking work for yourself so that you could then receive love back, because we give and we receive.
Uh-huh.
And so like all you're doing is like setting yourself up
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
then be
Mhm.
like, oh, nobody loves me. So then it's this vicious cycle for sure. So yeah, I'm glad
I
we can
mean,
laugh about it.
I laugh because I'm like, I just think everyone's lying. And that's I mean, it's funny, not funny, right? It's like hashtag funny, not funny. But
Right.
it's because it's like, how awful is it for someone to say they love me and me to be like suspicious? Like, no, you don't. You
Right.
don't even know me. Like, that's in my head, that's what's going on, right? It's like, you don't know me. How can you love me? You don't even I'm like, have you seen all of me? I don't know. Let's see if you see all of me and then you say you love me still, right? And so this non-belief, which is total opposite of like just believing everybody loves me, right? I'm like, I love myself. I know that.
Yeah.
But and it's part of the letdown too, like, oh, well, this person's just gonna let me down. So how can they say they love me? Eventually they're gonna let me down. So, but
Right.
closing off, I think the biggest thing, boundaries
Hmm.
is one. So that's,
Absolutely.
more you need your boundaries, but also you gotta let people in too.
Right.
So that's and that's the
This.
whole hard
Yeah.
part of it. Yeah, go ahead.
It's that shield. I have a card in one of my oracle decks that I work with. So when it comes up, it's a shield, right? Like you are protected. And I always tell people look at yourself and how you pull up your shield. Are you walking around like all day long, with this like Captain America kind of like armor on your arm, like right, shielding out any force? Or do you drop it and you never lift it so that you're always getting impacted, because you need to have a good balance with knowing when to shield yourself and when to drop
Uh-huh.
your shield?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep. Yeah. And that's a hard thing. It's a tricky one.
it
Very
is
tricky.
absolutely. And take
It's a tricky one
self-reflection to move through that.
for sure. Um,
I feel like
do
I'm
we want
definitely in the divine gift of this. So as we
Yeah,
go,
me
we're just
too.
looking at like
Well, I don't know.
yeah,
Go ahead.
the 40th gift of resolve, right? The lost art of doing nothing, which we were just talking about, learning to
Yep.
the difference between doing and just being.
Yep. Correct.
Yeah, and then relaxation. I can
Yeah.
definitely relax and do nothing and feel amazing about it.
Yeah, I mean, and it says the higher frequency exhaustion becomes a thing of the past, right? It's
Mhm.
aligned correctly. So it's when your life force is aligned correctly. And then you discover a vast amount of energy available to you, which is, and yesterday I was totally in the flow of this. So I can just tell you, like, it's because I'm a warrior, because
Mm,
I hold that warrior archetype so deeply inside of me. I train. When things get rough and tough, I train. That's what
yeah,
I do. I go to the gym and I train. And so I've aligned myself to fully training Kung Fu. Like that's just it. I'm just 100% focused on Kung Fu in my training. And so completely aligned, 'cause I
mhm,
was at the gym and that's what I was doing, you know what I mean? I'm like, "Y'all can lift weights, you all can do all this, but I'm gonna
right.
practice my kicks, my drop sweeps, my rolls, my this, my that, my shingi, my all the things that come with a warrior," right? And just spinning the pipes around and using the weapons and la na cha, you guys don't know what that is, that's fine, all over the place. And they're like, "What the hell is la na cha?" Get into Kung Fu, you'll know what that is. But anyway, just doing that, and I can tell you, so after I did my training yesterday, because typically I go to the gym and lift weights, but I'm like, no, I'm throwing down the weights and completely focusing on warrior training, period.
Mm,
And when I did that, I had so much vitality, because I was aligned with my life force and my purpose, and embracing the warrior spirit, embracing that warrior within me. And I can tell you that, like, my energy, I went to the store, everybody felt it. Like
yeah,
everybody that I was a part of felt it. Like it just transcended the energy all around me. Everybody was happy. It was just crazy, right? Like the frequency, people had no other choice but to align with the frequency I was bringing, which is
absolutely.
not, yeah, which is not necessarily the case, right? So get it, nice, yeah, hell yeah. So, for all my warrior women out there, man, hold your shields up.
Right.
I'm ready to do some warrior liberation. Um, anyway, um, but when I was out there, right, I went to the store. So my sister's like, we gotta go to Walmart. So I go to Walmart, right? I'm at the register at the checkout, and I'm just like, I don't know, just like witty, and that's what happens when I'm in my thing, and all this wittiness or whatever. And the guy's like, my God, you have so much energy. And I was like, he's like, where'd you get all, like, how do you have all this energy? And I was like, I'm on one today. Like, I just, because I was so in alignment with
Yeah,
who I am. He felt the energy. He could feel it. He could see it. It was radiating. I didn't even really have to say anything.
right.
Um, it just was there, right? About to bust. Oh yes. Love you. Yeah. Are you, oh, so you're a warrior. If you follow us, if you go follow us on women of consciousness .com and stuff, I'm gonna start doing a warrior, liberated warrior goddess stuff, because I'm embracing my warrior, and I just really feel like the feminine warrior
Mhm.
is, can I call in? Today we are almost done with this podcast. We usually get it to about an hour. So we have about 2 minutes left, and we may not even get through this full reading. But, um, we can do, if you want to reach out, or if you want to chat, just go ahead and reach out to us on womenofconsciousness.com, or you can send me an email. At here, I'll put it in the chat.
Yeah.
Um, and if Pat, if you want to continue reading, I'll just put this up here.
Um, yeah, well, just going back to what you're saying about the weekend and feeling in alignment, the more that you were talking about that, I was kind of reflecting. And like I had said, we did, through my spiritual church, we did a community weekend. And I never napped. I barely slept, but it was like all these children that everything was, really, really beautiful. And then yesterday it was like, yeah, I'm just going to rest from afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
But I like this one sentence that was coming up where you had kind of left off. And so it says everything about this 40th gene key is about having boundaries. And in order to create boundaries, you have to be able to deny other people access to your energy. You have to be able to say no. The correct use of this kind of isolation ensures that neither your energy nor your resources are ever depleted. The energy that goes into isolation can be a wonderful ally in life if used correctly. It's this ability to set personal boundaries around your energy and your time that gives rise to the gift of resolve. Um, so that's really, really beautiful.
Well, it's funny because I want to point out, like, so we have the person who was trying to call in looks like a troll, which is, I call you guys trolls. It could be the troll or the trickster archetype, whatever you want to call it. Or it could be repressed sexual energy, which usually comes up, especially when talking to the warrior. Which, it's funny. I love to have conversations with people that show up like this. It's yeah. It's always fun, right? We talk about tantric and then warrior goddess, and of course you have the shadow sexual energy show up here. Which we don't make wrong. I
Right,
Anybody who's ever showed up to my show knows that, there's no right, wrong, good, or bad.
right.
Um, Now in my personal life, it might be different. I might drop kick you, no, right? But on the podcast, I'm not gonna do that. Just kidding. Um, so, I could see how sexual energy would show up for whoever this person is. I'm assuming you're a man because 'cause you're talking about parts that sound masculine,
Yeah,
unless you're a woman. I mean, and you feel like you have parts that are manly, I don't know. Um, but, no, it's funny is, like, right when you were talking about boundaries, you're
yeah.
like, "Say no," so I put no. There's the
No,
boundary.
thank you.
I kinda don't want to, um, but I could see, so I kinda wanna talk about this, and maybe we can finish this gene key later, and I just have something to say about, when people show up like this, which is really kinda cool to me because it's the collective, in my opinion.
Right,
Shadows show up, and I don't make wrong the shadow. And
right,
most people on the show will freak out, right? They instantly wanna, fight. And there is no fight. I have no fight with individuals who are like this. What I do see is that warrior energy, because a lot of it is the warrior. We've been talking about it, and I have a lot of warrior energy in me, is that it starts from the sexual root, um,
yeah,
and it moves up. And that's what the warrior does. When an individual cannot redirect that force, and they just make it all about sexuality, they're not able to redirect their willpower into something that transcends them. So
right,
they're stuck at the lower dantian. um which is it right, wrong, good, or bad? No, it's not. However, the individual can never truly ascend to those higher levels, and find the ability to maneuver their willpower in a way that supports them or the collective,
right.
basically. So it'd be like this stuck energy, right?
Mhm.
So it's no wonder that, the sexual energy would show up, and that's hard because the warrior energy does ignite those things. And even as a warrior, like, for when you're doing martial arts, the first thing that you do is breathe into the dantian, which is the sexual energy field.
Yeah.
That the dantian is that lower chakra. You're pulling up that energy. And so you can tell when somebody is in the shadow side of it and maybe wounded,
Mhm.
as opposed to redirecting the force into something that's powerful. So, so those comments to me, that's what it shows me, is that perhaps you are a warrior in training and don't know how to utilize your warrior energy,
Right.
which is possible, that you're keeping that sexual energy, at the lower dantian. And I would say that, if that's where you want to continue to be, that's fine. But it's going to be at the detriment of your own personal health and your own
Right.
self.
Right.
Um, not at the expense of others. I mean, unless you're enforcing your will on other people, which that's a whole other kind of conversation. Um, so I hope that that helps you. Um,
Ties
and
in with our
and
harnessing and healing tantric
and
energy. So like,
individual individual who showed up to say some pretty
yeah,
explicit kind of stuff. Thank God this wasn't out loud, because it's be family friendly, people. Let's be
right.
family friendly. But I'm not afraid to talk about sexual energy and people's
Right.
shadow part of the sexual,
Right.
piece of it,
Right.
So there you go. I mean, I don't know how you feel about that. I don't even know how you say your name. Uriel Story? I'm just gonna call you Story. There you go, Story. Maybe Tiriel's story means something that I don't know.
Right.
Um,
I would
but
say don't give away, like, you're giving away your life force energy right now. like like work through it. This is a
want to
learning
give your life force
experience
to
for
energy.
you, or opportunity at least. So,
Are you sure you want to give that energy to me? Because I don't think
right?
you do.
Like, this ain't a channel for that, but okay. Like, whatever. But you're just depleting yourself. Save it. Save it and work with it. Like you said, channel it up. I'll
Hell
tell you
yeah,
what,
channel that energy. And
like
I would
that
say
is
it in an explicit way. Channel that deep energy.
right.
Channel that T energy.
Natalie
Okay?
and I have spent the last few months totally working with our own sexual energy and being completely celibate and like whatever, and then not, and then just letting it, like, we have gone through multiple spectrums intentionally and purposefully, alone and whatever, to just be able to, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, conquer some of this.
That's
So
right. Conquer that D energy. Conquer
right,
it. You are a
right,
warrior. We believe you
right.
can do it.
You got it. Maybe just ask yourself why. Why am I feeling this and doing this? Like, what's really here in this energy?
I get it though. Like the spiritual warrior goddess, or the warrior goddess, has this kind of an alluring, enticing thing about that. It's the truth when you
Yeah.
start talking about it. Like, I
Oh
get
yeah.
it, but it's because that's the energy that's willed upward. That's
Mhm.
the energy we're taking to
Mhm.
go to battle, or whatever it is,
Right.
right? Spiritual
Especially when
battle,
there's
whatever.
confidence and self-love, and
Yeah,
you
for
know,
sure.
you're sure of yourself and you know who you are and where you're coming at. Good thing
Yeah.
that we didn't. This is why we don't exactly let the call-ins happen anymore. We have learned. We learned. If you go back to last September, October, we learned. We haven't done that in a long time. I can't even imagine what would have happened. I
Oh, it
would
would have
have.
been fun. I would have had a whole lot of fun. I can tell you that right now.
Oh my god.
I I have no problem. No problem. You know what I mean? And the thing is getting to the root of it, because at the end of the day, once you move that energy up,
Hmm.
if you can get it to the solar plexus and into the heart, I guarantee you will
Yeah.
cry. Is there
Yeah.
something deeper for you there? There's a deeper connection and understanding that you need to connect to.
Right. And
And
like
I
the
hope you do.
yeah, and like the shadow thing was saying, like,
Mhm,
you know, there's this
mhm,
isolation and this
mhm,
loneliness that we
mhm,
all feel
mhm,
from
mhm,
one,
mhm.
you know,
Sure,
spectrum to the other of
sure,
intensity, but we're not alone in that, that we're all seeking community and connection.
sure.
But
And
it's
the
like, how are
warrior
you
too,
doing it?
right? And the warrior too is this wounded lover in a way too, because there's this repression of love and
Yeah.
connection. So
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you're probably looking to be hugged and loved and nurtured in a way that
Right.
you probably weren't given the opportunity to be.
Yeah.
Which I do pray for you, um story that you do find that, because I mean, at the end of the day, you deserve that. You deserve to be more than just a D. You definitely deserve more than that, I promise you. You deserve to be loved, you deserve to be nurtured and cared for, and you deserve for your heart to open, which is at the end of the day that healed sexual energy too. So I pray for you, sir. I'm sure you're a sir because you're saying you have a thing. So I'm trying not to use these words because I know it's going to YouTube and it's family friendly stuff, but um I believe that for you.
Right,
And I do hope that you are able to find some healing within yourself around that. Because we all deserve that. We all
right.
do. We all deserve that. So, hello. So I hope the listeners had fun with that. I do love when people show up like this. I've had trolls and tricksters show up to my show before a long time ago when I was getting a lot of traction and stuff like that. And I just have fun with those individuals. It's like at the end of the day, a couple of trolls, they ended up apologizing. But they were like, you're no, you're cool. Like, and they're like, we're going to follow you now. You know what I mean? It was like, and it was just kind of funny, but because at the end of the day, I do want we do, I
Right,
do, we do want healing for the collective.
right,
This
right. We're
really is
not
about
here to judge people or make them
yeah,
feel bad. We're trying to help,
yeah,
give guidance.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and we can do it all, even the sexual stuff, so there
Oh,
you
yeah.
go.
Yeah. You have no idea.
You didn't shock
Right.
us with your comments.
Right.
But I do hope that if that is truly how you're feeling, because I don't wanna minimize that maybe that's how you're feeling, truly. Maybe that is the feelings that are coming up for you, that you transcend those feelings and really work them up to the heart.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, let us hear it, get into it, baby. Okay, I don't know what that means. Okay. So there you go, story. I really hope that you find someone to nurture your heart. That's my prayer for you. I might even light a candle for you actually, that you find someone to nurture your heart, and someone who can love you for the heart that you have and not just your D, but you know.
Oh, man.
Okay, go because this is getting like okay. So there you go, beautiful people. We obviously have a lot more to talk about this gene key, so maybe we could just do a continuance of it. But again,
Boundaries.
boundaries, yes, boundaries,
Boundaries.
boundaries, boundaries. But again, it is the 40th gene key. And willpower is the big part of it that we discussed over this thing. And the willpower, again, is seated in
Mm,
the solar plexus, that connection between the heart, and it is hard to move up. So if you are feeling the energy at the lower dantian and moving up the channels, um you know opening the heart space is really the only way to transcend that,
mm,
and to move it. And then it obviously go to the throat and stuff like that to speak your truth, but the heart, um connecting the lower to the upper, which is just whew,
mm.
that's a hard one. It's a
Yeah.
hard one. Yeah. So I think that that's it for today, guys. I hope you
Yeah.
guys enjoyed the entertainment that showed up. We definitely thank you for keeping it entertaining.
Right.
So
Keeping us on our toes.
I know. All right.
Oh.
So have a beautiful day. We love you guys. Anything else, Pam, you want to say before we go?
Um, I would just say if you're not familiar with the chakra system, take it slow, go learn, go explore it. I just did a class on it in person. Going to try and do some virtual classes on our website, um, so that eventually people will be able to sign up for those. And again, we're just here to help educate and help others transcend. But yeah, you got to at least just understand your chakra, understand your energy body. If that's something new for you today, that's kind of my guidance. Go and understand that about you. See where those wounds and
Absolutely.
those blocks are, because it does show up eventually as disease and illness in the body.
Yep. And also we are putting on a virtual retreat. So, and we have a goddess circle. So you guys can sign up on that if you
Around
are
tantric.
wanting around tantric stuff, around sexual energy. So, there you
Yep.
go. Of course it's going to show up, right? The shadow always has to show up. It's like, how could we do
Absolutely.
this without that? Um, so if you want to go to womenofconsciousness.com, we will be sharing the link to register on our Facebook page. We have a goddess circle that is at no cost. That's for you guys to we give back on the goddess circle, but we have a virtual retreat coming up. And so you can go online and sign up for that as well. We look forward to having you guys. It'd be so much fun. And then eventually I will be doing a liberated warrior training series for those warrior women out there that are ready to like take up their swords, take up their shields when needed, but
Yeah.
then put them down when they don't need them.
Right.
Also. So there you go. All right. So have a good day. We love you.
Bye.
Bye.